the perfect antagonist. Now, you might say that the perfect antagonist is Johann Liebert from Monster, or it is Griffith from Berserk, it is Gendo Ikari from Neon Genesis Evangelion, and yeah, you guys are not wrong, not at all. These anime antagonists are very beautifully written, very beautifully, brilliantly written. Everything was very well thought of. I very well dare use the word perfect to describe each and every one of them as the story transcribes and a new chapter is being told. These antagonists are the reason why the story told is so special and so heartwarming for all of us. Now, in this video, I want to specifically talk about the perfect antagonist, Meruem. Yeah, the reason I think he is the embodiment of being the perfect antagonist. Now, let's talk about the story told, the way Hunter x Hunter, Hunter x Hunter, tells us a story of a blind girl who teaches a godlike being or creature, how to see the story, the perfect story. Now, first things first, we are going to be talking about the character development. The character development of the king. His birth is highly anticipated, as it should be. He was destined to be the perfect being, the perfect creature. He was going to be the next ruler of the world, the one who is going to change the world. As his destiny, his name was Meruem, the light that illuminates everything. His name meant the light of the world that would shine forever and would change everything for eternity. The hype before his appearance, his first appearance, was the perfect hype that he needed as a character. It was just the beginning, and how well written his character development was. Now, he is a premature baby who just rips his mother's stomach out and is responsible for his mother's death due to him being so malicious. He shows no regrets or no sign of remorse while his mother dies. He, when he appears, is a ruthless, heartless character. He is just pure evil, or the incarnation of pure evil, as it is shown. He further meets his loyal royal guards. Now, these royal guards were so loyal to the king that if he ordered them to kill themselves, the royal guard would just kill themselves. They would just die for the king. That's how important the king was to the royal guards. As the story further continues, the king is shown to be hungry and he needs food just like everyone else. So he just ruthlessly kills someone's child. And as he does, he even kills the mother. He is just Satan. He is Satan himself. He is pure evil as the story passes by. Now, he, knowing that he has to be the ruler of the world, he would go on a killing rampage and he would capture a castle with his royal guards. Now, when he captures the castle, he spits some very fascinating human facts. Like everything Meruem says, every word that he speaks out is so much relatable to the human world. Like the dude was born to speak facts and he just shows us, the viewers, on how to view our world, on how the world works. At the first, when he and his royal guards capture the castle, as it is shown that the king who claimed that he was the king who was making prostitutes dance for him just shows that he's cheap character. And after that, when Meruem kills him, he asks his royal guards about why is that so? Why is this incompetent human claiming to be a king? So the royal guard replies that it is a common phenomena in human world that by the help of contacts or even being born as a royal or of a higher family status or by having connections you could be great, not by talent, hard work, or someone who is more competent in their position. So that was that, and everything that the king told was just shocking, was just straight shocking, brutal facts that we needed to know. And as the king captures the castle, the story of capturing, taking over the world begins. As so, the king wants to kill this his time because he would get bored. So he decides to play board games. Each and every one of new competitors, a chess champion, a sketches, or any board game champion would show up to the king, and the king surprisingly would defeat them with ease after a day or two or so. And after defeating every one of them, chess and every single board game that the king played, there comes a girl who is the Gungi world champion. She is the current Gungi world champion. So he tells her to come and sit play with him. After some while, they both play Gungi, and the king notices something that she is blind. He asks her about the blindness, so she tells the king that she was born that way, and if it makes him comfortable, she would try to keep her eyes like open. The king says no, like you are fine the way you are. After they keep on playing, she is the one that the king is unable to defeat at all. She was so good at Gungi that the king is no match for her. As time passes by, the king decides to use a tactic, like she asks the girl, the Gungi girl, to make a wager, a bet on the line of this game. So she just thinks to herself that, like, what should I get? The king asks her one thing, that if she wins, she will get anything that she desires. So she thought that what should I get, what should I get? And after that, when asked by, but if she loses, the king will take her arm off, he will rip it apart, he said. He thought that it was a good tactic at that time and that she would be scared, she would lose composure of the game, and she would surrender and she wouldn't win the next Gungi game. So after that, the king is surprised by the girl's answer. The Gungi girl's name, her name was Komugi, which the king later asked. So the king never asked anyone for anyone's name. It was the first time that the king was actually concerned about someone's name, because he was that special of a being. So yeah, I was at the beautiful answer that Komugi gave to the king. So when asked by the wager, the Komugi Gungi girl says that why can't I always bet the one thing that I bet when I play a game of Gungi? So the king is astounded and surprised. He asks her, what is the thing that you usually bet while you play Gungi? So she claims that whenever she loses in Gungi, she will forfeit her life. Yeah, she will hang herself to death. She will forfeit her life. She will give up on her life. And the king asked, Why? Why is that? So she replies that she was the only breadwinner in the whole village that she lived in. And after she lost, she would be just a dead burden for the whole village, and she was the only reason why the whole village was filled. So, and she also told the king that whenever there is a saying in Gungi that if you lose once in Gungi, you will never be the same again. You will never be the same player in Gungi again. So, the king was just purely surprised, astounded by how strong this girl's resolve is. And he says he thinks he knows at that point that this tactic isn't going to work, like this was a cheap tactic and it would never work against someone with such hard resolve. As he realizes that it was a cheap tactic, he proceeds to make an apology to Komugi, and as he apologizes to her, he then proceeds to rip his own right hand off and put it right beside the Gungi table and tells her that please accept this as an apology to you. In which, after that, she is surprised, and as he tells to continue the game, but the royal guard doesn't allow it. He insists the king to have his hand treated, in which the king refuses and beats the royal guard up. And as the story continues, Komugi said that I will not move a single piece until you get your hand healed. In which the king threatens to kill her, move or I will take your life. But Komugi refuses, and the game goes on. The Gungi game doesn't go on. He is being healed while the game is being continued. So, as time passes by, the king isn't able to win against this girl Komugi, but as they keep on playing, the king realizes the king slowly and surely just falls in love with her. Yeah, imagine the perfect being falls in love with someone that is not even that pretty, that is not even that appealing, just a simple girl from a small village who is blind. And as the story continues, at a point, the king has held up a meeting now in which he asks the royal guards, in which he tells them that the world is actually filled with power. Everyone has their own power. Like the girl Komugi, she is very powerful in the game, in the art of Gungi, and the king claims at that point that his power, his art is pure brute strength, which is the most strongest thing in the world, and which anyone could ever dream of having. At that point, the king is probably 20 to 30 years 30 days, sorry, not years, 20 to 30 days old. So, as he decides to kill Komugi, as it was useless to play her, because he knew that his strength was brute force, so he would just decides to kill her. And as he goes on, when he goes to kill her, he sees that Komugi is being harassed, being attacked by crows. He instantly kills the crows and he asks her, screams at her, why didn't you call for help, not beg, call. So Komugi tells that I didn't want it to cause trouble for anyone in the palace as it was night, and I didn't want anyone to bother for me, and that's how. Why? So the king shouts at her that you should have called for help. Why didn't you? You are a very special guest, and now next time don't be foolish. And he thinks to himself at that point that what am I doing, why am I telling her, like I came in here to kill her, and why am I not killing her? What is this feeling, what am I feeling towards her, and why can't I kill her? As so on, Komugi goes on to cry. Like when King says that she's a special guest, she cries. And when King asks her, "Why is it that you cry?" she tells the king that in my life, I have never been wanted like this much. I have never been treated this way. That you, my king, is treating me. And so the king just looks at her and he just thinks to himself that what is she? So as time passes by, as each day passes by, the 10 days time comes to an end. So now it's the time for the world conquest. So he at that point, the heroes, the protagonist of the anime, decides to lay the attack on the kingdom. So as time passes by, like when they invade the palace, the one that is actually hurted is Komugi. Yeah, she is wounded severely. And protagonist invaded the palace. He picked her up, and it was very gentle, like some being who deeply cared about another being would pick someone up. And as he looked besides, he saw the royal guard Pito, who had the ability to heal anyone. So she ordered Pito to heal Komugi, and he knew that Komugi will be healed. And as he orders her, he knows, the king knows that he has fallen for Komugi. And before the palace, he ordered the royal guard Pito to not only just put her aura around the whole palace. Not just that, he ordered her to protect Komugi also, like not just look over me as the king, as I am the king, as you should be watching over my life always, but always also watch over Komugi, as she is very important and you should always keep an eye and keep her safe, he ordered. And as Pito heals her, as she heals her, the king fights with the Netro, who is the strongest hunter alive, who is the strongest character in the series of Hunter x Hunter, like after the king. So they decide, the king and Netro agree to face each other at a different separate location. As they go there, Netro is unable to defeat the king. So the king tells him that my perception of the world has changed. Like he speaks another truth, like how the world will be better off if I am the king. As one side on the border, how hungry humans are starved to death, and on the other side, like there are scums who are worthless, absolutely worthless, who have everything they want and the things that they don't even need of. Like it is pure absolute madness for the king, as so much as his character said. And he told that when I become the king, there would be no such inequality. As time spent by, as the time kept going, as the story, the chapters changed, the king was not a sadist anymore. He wasn't Satan himself. He just wanted to make the world a better place. As he fell in love with Komugi, he changed. Like the character development of the king changed completely. He was like a whole another person, and the wisdom that he gave was stupendously wise, like how much eye-opening was it us as viewers to know like such horrors and horrendous stuff, about how like it made us wonder that we are being being given everything that we could ever ask for, and there are people who are starving to death. So, as he told Netro about his plan of being bringing a change to a world which Netro clearly denied. So, as Netro loses his limbs, arm after leg after arm and another leg, the king he decides that he knows that he has lost, and so they both had an agreement, Netro and King, that if the king wins, Netro would say his name, which the king never knew of. He never knew his name, so the king always thought of himself as, am I? What am I? I'm just a nameless king without with a borrowed palace, with a borrowed throne. So as he defeats Netro, he asks for his name. So Netro says that your name is Meruem. And at that time, Netro proceeds to pierce his heart, and he tells that don't underestimate us humans. As he pierces his heart, that was the first time ever in his life that the king felt fear. And so, as he pierces his heart, the whole arena is nuked by a nuclear bomb known as the Rose Bomb, which is like deadly, filled with deadly poison, in which anyone within that range would be poisoned, and when they died, they would also take the people around them. Like it was that malicious poison around. It would spread like coronavirus. So after being nuked with the Rose Bomb, the Royal Guards just came to King's rescue after finding out the location from Protagonist. And as they came, like the King was blown to an oblivion, like there were nothing or no remains of King. He was reduced to something very low. And so what happened was they gave their own life force, like they melted themselves and fed to the king. And as so happened that the king turns out to be much stronger than he was before, and he had this new abilities, the abilities that the royal guards possess. And so it happened that the royal guards were eaten. They just killed themselves in order to make the king alive. And as so happened, the protagonist of the world of this anime, they turns out they kidnapped Komugi, and they wanted king they wanted to negotiate with the king, or they weren't planning to handing over Komugi to the king, as she was very special to the king. So as so happened, when the king arrived at the palace, he found out that he was gonna die due to his new abilities that he got from his royal guard, and he knew everything. So at that point, he knew he was gonna die, and everything's gonna die, and he won't be able to conquest the world. The humans have won. I'm still here, my king. I am still here. And Komogi, will you hold my hand? Yes, I will hold your hand. Here, let me hold your hand, she said. Then the king said, Komogi, will you say my name for one last time? Then Komogi replied, Go sleep, Meruem. Arigato, which means good. Arigato means thank you. Sayonara, Meruem, sayonara, which means goodbye in Japanese. So she told him sayonara, and she had his hand as he slept on her lap, and she told him, don't worry, Meruem, I'll soon be joining you. And finally, like, it ends out that they both died. Like they both died with them holding hands and together as lovers, as couples. So they both died in love. And who was the main story is that who was the evil here? Was it the Hunter Association? Was it the protagonists that were evil here, who denied, who refused Meruem to bring a change to the new world, who killed such a competent being who was capable of ruling the world, who could change the world for good? Like, was no matter what they must use, what force, what tactic, no matter how sadist or how evil, they must stoop down. So it is just a story of how evil turned out to be good and how good turned out to be evil, in which antagonist wasn't actually the antagonist and protagonist wasn't actually the protagonist. And that's what I love about this anime, and that is why I think that this king is the perfect antagonist. The change of his character, the story that is developed, and how things turned out between them, the love story and the sad ending. Everything was the hype behind his birth, everything, his name, his meaning, his impact on the world, everything was very well written. And in the end, how he turned out to be good and how the good guys were the bad guys, the heroes were actually the villain, is why I think this story is perfect, and Kaiman is the best anime arc of all time, and why Meruem is the perfect antagonist. And here you have it, folks. This is why Meruem is the perfect antagonist. Hope you have a nice day. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.